This is Out of Bounds. We back. We had a week off, but we back. Travel, you know how it goes. It's to the...
Yeah, how the heck did you end up once again at the wrong airport?
That wasn't the wrong airport. It just, my trip got extended by a day. That's just how things typically go. I ended up at the right airport, but it was in a different city. So, welcome to Out of Bounds, your home for the weird, wacky, and wild in the sports world. I'm John. That's Mia. We have a fun day ahead of us here as we discuss all things deportes for you. Mia, you're looking very Trevor Lawrence right now. Is that the vibe you're going for?
No, this was actually because I leave for vacation Wednesday, but tomorrow I have a lot of things going on. So this is my dress down day. This is actually the official Touchdown City shirt. I believe I may be the only person not on the roster that has one of these. You got to know the right people. They're made of Chinese silk, I am told. I think it's actually just a special dry fit. But yeah, and then this is just repping the boys, Bold City, DTWD Originals, because I love shopping local, as we all know. And then I have jorts on because apparently I have reached peak Floridian, but then I rocked some slides. So yeah, peak Floridian vibes today because I can't dress down to tomorrow before I leave for vacation. So I said I need a dress down day.
Where's vacation?
Oh, the great state of Iowa, but of course, John Alba, as well as some time in Chicago too. So no, I have a wedding, and so we're going to make a week plus out of it, or a week out of it. So very excited to return to the homeland.
It's not your home.
It's my second homeland. That's why I refer to it as the homeland. New Jersey is my home. The homelands are Ithaca, New York, and
I'm half-assed convinced that you think you're from Iowa.
No, I'm not. It's funny. People think I am, and I have to say, no, I'm not. And I also do not have a degree. We just say I have a master's in partying. Yeah, but I'm very excited to indulge in cheese curds and my favorite breweries and pork chop on a stick and all the delicacies out there. And that is why, as we get ready for the opening toast,
on a stick.
You're gonna get mad at me. I have to drink water, John, because I'm fitting into the bridesmaid's dress as of right now. I also fit into, you got to give me kudos on this one, 2 pairs of shorts that I did not fit in a month ago. I now fit in.
That's good.
So that's why the cleanse continues. I also cheated yesterday and had a donut. So yes.
Okay. Well, I'll give you the credit there. Give you credit where credit's due. That's great to hear. It's good to be back here on Out of Bounds. And remember, folks, if you're watching this, you can join us in the chat by leaving a super chat on YouTube, or you can go to kyonchat.com, leave your chat there, and we will read it on air for you. We like to have lots of fun here. We like to be interactive here. So we'll do our opening toast. Let's get a little ASMR because we like that. There it is. Let's see. 2 pork chops on a stick? I don't know. I don't understand that one.
To the butter cow.
Cheers.
To the butter cow.
I'm
almost at the 7 o'clock line. I'm very proud of myself.
Can you explain pork chop on a stick to me real quick here?
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a normal.
I don't think it is, because I don't think a pork chop goes on a stick. How is a pork chop?
Well, they stick it on it so that it's easier. It's more accessible, so you can be mobile and still eat your pork chop.
And it's a deep fried. Is it a fried pork chop?
No, it's truly a barbecue pork chop.
So it's a grilled pork chop.
Yep, just on a stick
that they just stick a skewer in.
Yeah, pretty basic, honestly. I would say that the pork tenderloin that you're thinking of, that does not go on a stick, and that is much more intense.
Well, no, I know what a pork chop is. I'm wrapping my head around it being on a stick.
Oh yeah, Google it. Iowa State Fair, Minnesota State Fair, Wisconsin, they all do it, but especially in Iowa. So it just makes eating easier.
Let's see here. Looking this up. How about that? It is a literal pork chop on a skewer.
Yeah, there's a picture of my mother floating around. I'll text it to you of her eating a pork chop on a stick.
Okay. Well, we're not doing that. We're going down to San Antone to see your boy Wemby. Now that right there, that's a good looking shot, isn't that, Mia?
Well, he's just so likable, John. Victor Wembanyama, the first overall pick in this year's NBA draft, San Antonio Spurs, as you alluded to. It looks like a great shot, but according to you, he did not impress in his welcome. He hosted a shoot around for the media, which is pretty normal. To see him in a Spurs jersey in action, he missed every single shot during said shoot around. John, are we declaring him a bust? Are the rims different in the NBA compared to France?
He's a bust. Call it right now.
No, heck
Yeah,
no.
this was fun. It was just funny because this guy comes in as quite possibly the most hyped prospect since LeBron James. I mean, there's a legitimate comparison.
Today is
be
the
made,
20th anniversary, by the way, of LeBron James's
which
2003 NBA
that is
draft.
crazy in and of itself. But I think it's just so funny because you have that comparison made. LeBron, as we know, came out and was a stud right from the get-go. Wemby comes out in this no pressure, super relaxed environment. Yeah, come on, just put up some shots for us. Let's see. You hear all these reports and you read these articles and you see these video packages about how he's the most complete player ever. He's been basically built in a lab to be the most efficient big man of all time who can shoot and put up. And the dude shoots for more than a minute and a half and doesn't make one shot. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys through the years, Mia. They come in the drafts, and you're like, "Oh man, that was a bad omen right from the start." Oof, it's a little omeny, isn't it?
No, I'm not worried. Honestly, I think it's overblown. I think it's quite honestly, although this conspiracy theory, I do believe those videos that are surfacing out of Tampa of Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask throwing and they don't complete a single one. I do think that is actually real. This, yes, it was real, but I'm not putting a ton of stock in it. For what it's worth, Victor Wembanyama, first of all, he's going to find his way to the basket his rookie year. Second of all, even when he only averages, let's say, 12 to 15 a game, they said from the jump that his defense would be what translates first, and the length and the size and the fact that he can guard 1 through 5. So, am I concerned that he didn't make a basket in a minute and a half? Sure. But also, like, I don't know, like, I have bad days. Like,
it is facetious.
Especially the pressure of all these media members watching you. I mean, I don't know.
Facetiousness. Of course, it's not a big deal. Of course, he's going to be just fine. But I think that it just reeks of like it'll be like we'll talk years from now if Wemby doesn't pan out. I'll be like, remember that? Remember that first day on the job that we probably should have had an idea.
Listen, you brought Trevor Lawrence up. We can bring up Urban Meyer too. First impressions are not always accurate. So listen, we all thought that we had a coaching genius here in Jacksonville.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. It's a very secular group because I don't think everyone thought. I don't think everyone.
For what it's worth, we were like, "Oh, we love this power," like how he's going to be a CEO model.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid, then,
right? Just like people are drinking, maybe, and that's what to your hypothetical in jest. Maybe that's what people, if Wemby doesn't pan out, that's what they will say. But for what it's worth, I also do cover the prince that was promised on the football gridiron, and so I can tell you that Victor Wembanyama is the next prince that was promised. I was thinking about it on my drive home tonight from work, just thinking about number 1 overall picks that have had this much hype that haven't panned out, or versus the ones that have. You look at LeBron James, you look at Trevor Lawrence. Those are guys that we have been talking about since they were 14 years old. And just like when Trevor Lawrence, because of Urban Meyer, struggled his rookie season, you had to go back to, we have been talking about this guy being the best player in his grade, in his generation, since he was 14. He's not going to suddenly not be the best player if he was the best player in high school and the best player in college. And while Victor Wembanyama doesn't have that American type hierarchy in terms of how he has progressed to this highest level of basketball, it's going to be the same thing. I have no doubts. I would put big money on Victor Wembanyama panning out in the National Basketball Association.
I'm not too concerned. I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be the best player in his draft class. He's going to be one of the best players of his generation. I'm really not too worried about it either. I just find it funny because we hear all of these different reports about he was manufactured in a lab. He was
He was. His dad
basically
was
put
an
together
Olympic
to
track
be.
athlete. Mother played professional basketball. Grandparents played professional
But
basketball.
but
He's
that
a
like
he's a product of the breeders.
but he had this program that was specifically put together just for him to maximize different elements of his game to build the impenetrable player. And you said, oh, well, maybe the nerves of playing in front of a few media members got to him. Well, if that got to him, buddy, you're going to be out in front of 20,000 fans every single night very soon.
I
So I
loved
sure as
his
hell hope.
interview with his brother and sister too. I thought that was super awesome. Like the one at the draft, like where they
Do
all
you
just
think he
like,
just ate something bad? You mentioned
yeah. Or he was
he
getting used to his new
he had
sneakers or
dinner.
something. Yeah, new sneakers or something. Yeah,
Well, he
or the
mentioned
Tim
that
Duncan
he had
dinner.
dinner with
Yeah.
he had Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili. He had dinner with them. What do you think Victor Wembanyama ate?
I think he had steak for the first time, like a Texas steak.
Do you think that he had a pork chop on a stick?
No, because well, actually, no, they do serve them at the Texas State Fair, so there's a possibility of it. I just hold Tim Duncan and his personal food choices in a higher regard, so I would think it wasn't that. I would think it's an actual pork chop, but they do sell those at the Texas State Fair, I do believe. So there's a possibility. I want to know if he went to Whataburger because they're ready. They're ready to roll out that endorsement. The W stands for Wemby. So how soon until he starts the In-N-Out versus Whataburger burger fight in the state of Texas?
Well, I'm going to show you momentarily here because Wemby was not just busy getting drafted first overall by the San Antonio Spurs. He made a trip over to Yankee Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
The day prior.
They don't play baseball in San Antonio. It's fine.
Well, they hardly play baseball in the Bronx too, but this is
that we're going to get to. Don't worry.
This was the craziest thing that came out of it. Did you see this picture of him holding a baseball?
Oh, yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
That is a baseball.
A human hand.
In a human hand. I remember when I was a kid.
No wonder he shanked it. Like, if I had to hold a baseball like that, if it was that little, I would too.
You have to push it through your palms pretty much.
You have no grip on it.
When I was a kid, I used to have to grip the four-seam fastball with 3 fingers because I couldn't do it with 4 fingers because I couldn't do it with 3. This is a palmful of baseball for Victor Wembanyama. We'll see how he does in his first season in the NBA. We still got a little time. He could be a future face of the franchise there. So why don't we discuss another face of the franchise? And that, of course, I'm talking about Dame. Damian Lillard could be the latest NBA superstar to find a new home. He's reportedly drawn a ton of interest from around the league, specifically the Miami Heat. There was a little rumor that he was trying to force his way to the Heat when he posted on Instagram a picture with the song Miami playing underneath it, and it was deleted real quick. He denied it, said it was just a coincidence. He's meeting with the Blazers about his future this week. He's long been viewed, Mia, as a potential homegrown lifer in the league, but are the days of the franchise player over in the association?
I don't think... I mean,
when I say franchise player, I mean someone who's spending the majority of, if not their entire career with a franchise.
Oh, yeah, like one person spending their whole career in one place. I think, yeah, I think across professional sports, we're seeing the end of that. That is truly the dinosaur. And not in regards to being old, in regards to being rare. I guess you could call it the snow leopard then. Because unfortunately, in this day and age where everyone wants to pad their resume to leave a legacy, it requires often when if there's dysfunction in the front office or quite simply the timing just hasn't panned out, that maybe you do need that change of scenery so you can accomplish your ultimate goals. Damian Lillard has been a good soldier in Portland. He's trying to make it work. And that's where you look at him. And John, you're going to roll your eyes when I say this. Damian Lillard, Aaron Rodgers. Very similar when you think about it, because small market teams, no. Take the psychedelics out of it. Take all that part out of it. What I'm saying is small market teams tried to make it work for the longest time. Aaron Rodgers did win it all in Green Bay, and that's where they defer. But the reality is both those guys stuck it out in their original towns that they were drafted by, the original franchise they were drafted by, in a small market a lot longer than most professional athletes in 2023 would. And then the whether or not they are leaving becomes our favorite soap opera of the offseason.
Yes, I understand the comparison you're making. I don't think it's apples to apples per se. I think that also it is a lot harder to maneuver around in the NFL when you're under contract.
Mhm.
Whereas in the NBA, I think it's a little easier to force a team's hand to move you. I think it's a lot easier, actually, truth be told, especially just due to the
Well,
different
especially
cap
because of what
rules.
we just said, that this is the day and age of player, autonomy.
Well, it's the different cap rules in the NBA with there's a lot more flexibility there that you can work with, and B, the NBA is the superstar league, right? That is the superstar league. And it is admirable that Dame has tried to stick it out. But I do believe that we are probably on the verge of the end of the players with one franchise the entire time, just because the amount of money that exists right now in the NBA, especially with max contract stuff. Now, the NBA does it better than any other league when it comes to giving the hometown team a chance to retain a player, because the hometown team can inherently sign a player they've had under contract to a higher max contract than any other franchise can. And I think that that does maybe give you a little hope that the NBA's could be the last survivor of this trend where a player might stick it out because they just continue to get big time contracts year over year with a particular franchise. But I also think we're moving in a direction now where we've seen it the past few years where you're going to see more guys in the NBA signing short-term mega loaded contracts, a 2-year $75 million deal. I think that you will see more of that in the superstar driven league. And for that reason, Mia, I think those days are pretty much just about close to behind us. The question then becomes, do you see Dame actually being dealt? And has he earned the right
Yes.
to
Yes,
request
on
that
both.
trade?
Yes, on both fronts. I mean, he's earned the right because he's made Portland relevant. I think that he's earned the right because he stuck it out even after CJ McCollum was traded. He continued to be a good soldier. He single-handedly put the team on his back in the 2019 NBA playoffs and the 2021, correct me, or 2019 for sure, the year the Raptors won. And then I believe 2018 and 2021 as well. He's a guy that went to a small school in Weber State, a guy who's inherently loyal. And I think the fact that he and his agent met with the team today before trade rumors of, oh, he's going to Miami that were starting to be leaked. I think that they're trying to control the narrative and have a good conversation. And so, yes, if you're going to leave on good terms like that, I mean, let's be real. The Trailblazers just picked third overall for a reason, John. For a guy who's 32, 33 years old, you have to recognize that he is approaching the tail end of his career while still in his prime.
Tail end of his prime, I'd say, not
Right, the
necessarily
tail
the
end of his
career.
prime. And so that's where if, you understand the service he's put in and say, I understand why you would want to do this. This is not LeBron James trying to get out of Cleveland at 25, 26 years old. This is someone who stuck out most of the prime of his career, even with teams that were lackluster. And so I think if the Trailblazers and him have the good working relationship we believe they do, then they'll be able to come to that conclusion.
I wonder what is the best type of landing spot for a Dame, because with the nature of his play and the type of teammate he is, it almost speaks to me, and this is where we could break the grounds of the traditional superstar, that he would be better suited in a well-rounded environment rather than one that is loaded with stars. Like, I think the Brooklyn Nets would be a better landing spot than, say,
Miami.
I mean, Miami is pretty well-rounded, but I mean more, and again, hypotheticals, not that this team is in on him because they're not, but like a team like the Warriors, a team like that where they have a team like the Sixers, like they have all these other pieces. I think he fits in this hybrid role where he's a scorer, he distributes, and he complements everyone around him really well. And I'd love to see a player like that win a championship rather than just coming in, year out, big three, big three, big three. I think that would be beneficial for the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just very curious of this whole Miami subplot. The fact that he brought it up on a podcast and because Bam's my dog and that's great. Josh Allen told me the same thing. And Bam's his dog. That's why he's rooting for the Heat. So Bam's got a lot of friends, evidently. My thing with that is to your point, like I just don't see a world in which him and Jimmy Butler can both play off the ball and you can have an undrafted free agent as your point guard, which listen, nothing against the undrafted free agents, but you're not investing all that much capital in Gabe Vincent. He's not a superstar. And while certainly all he is really a facilitator outside of a couple of explosions in the NBA postseason, I just don't see a world in which those two could peacefully coexist. So I agree with your point. That's why I was really upset that, Bradley Beal went to the Suns because I mean, potentially, well, certainly I think Devin Booker and Kevin Durant need to be scorers as well. And so who's your facilitator there? I think Booker at least kind of bridges the gap a little bit more between facilitator and scorer
He's gonna
than
have
Jimmy
to.
does.
Yeah, he's gonna
Right,
have
he
to.
would have to, and he's going to have to now with Bradley Beal.
Speaking of facilitators, Mia, let's continue.
Yeah, good segue. Woo! Oh, baby, Chris Paul. Talk about people at the tail end of their prime career? Question mark. Chris Paul seems like he's going to get one more shot at the NBA title, John. A Larry O'Brien trophy after a surprising trade from the Suns to the Wizards to the Golden State Warriors just hours before the NBA draft. Is this parody at this point with another team trading for an aging star, or is there merit to having Chris Paul on the Golden State Warriors?
And when you say parody, you mean parody, not parity, because I think that it is it's like a bit at this juncture where we see teams doing this all the time.
The man just wants to get into the Hall of Fame and he thinks he needs this on his resume, John.
Well,
that's my take.
I think it's more than him thinking he needs it on his resume. He's going to be a Hall of Famer regardless of whether or not he wins an NBA championship. But what player wants to retire knowing they didn't win the big one? You don't want to be part of that group of people, especially when you are as talented as Chris Paul and you've come close like Chris Paul has. He's been right there. He has tasted it. He's been on teams that should have won and underperformed. And you could argue that he was a part of that underperformance in certain runs. But it is so funny how this seems to be something that teams love to run back. And they think, well, this person will adopt a different role and they will fit in. And maybe Chris Paul can do that. Maybe Chris Paul can adopt a little bit of a different role and give a guy like Steph Curry even more opportunities to score. We'll see if Draymond even comes back for the Warriors. But think back, 2003, 2004, the Los Angeles Lakers bring in Karl Malone and they bring in Gary Payton, who are on the last limbs of their career.
Not Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton.
Because they're like, yes, we are going to bring in these guys. They have enough left in the tank and they are going to help us win an NBA championship. And they made the finals. They did not win the NBA championship that year against the Detroit Pistons. I think that the Warriors in their new upper regime are trying to do something very similar here. And they think that Chris Paul has just enough left to be able to bring them over the hump of their shortcomings this year. But I don't know about you. I watched the Warriors this year and I thought that they needed a lot more than just a point guard.
Yeah, right. I mean, I watched the Suns too, and Chris Paul was plagued by injuries at different portions of the season. He also went MIA in the scoring department at times. And while certainly because you have the two greatest three-point shooters of our time on your roster, you don't need to rely on him to go get 25, 30 a night. At the same time, you do need him to be healthy, available, and physical at the point of attack. And I'm not sure he can be at this juncture in his career. I just more so look at this, John, not even from the Chris Paul ring chasing, teaming up with Steph vantage point, as much as I look at this and say, what are the Warriors doing? They trade away Jordan Poole. Probably shouldn't have given him the Supermax. But then again, I think the Atlanta Hawks are saying the same thing with John Collins, who they said goodbye to today. Based off one playoffs, you give someone $80 million. Not really sure that that's, ideal business in the case of both those franchises with those two young players. But you look at how few minutes, and granted, part of that was the rotation that they had gone with throughout the course of the season, but how few minutes Kuminga played, Moody played. The fact that James Wiseman, that didn't pan out. And so
they have not hit.
Right. And so that's where I look at this Warriors team and I say, wow, you're really just going to throw the whole thing, the kitchen sink at it, because you know that if after the next 2 years, it's probably time to fold it up and start figuring out a way to get back into contention with a different iteration. They really tried to keep that core intact while building, and they just didn't hit. And so now they're facing a situation where they have the next 1 to 2 years, and then after that, it's probably over, quite frankly. And then where does Steph Curry go, to our earlier point? Does he stick it out in Golden State?
Stick it out, as he want one more championship by going to the NBA championship contending Oklahoma City Thunder?
There's a chance.
What a world that would be, huh?
Absolutely. There's always a chance of it because, like you said, I think that this is the nature of the NBA we live in now. It's player driven and the players have the power, which isn't a bad thing. But it's the same in the same but a different vein to college sports, where you better be rooting for the name on the front of the jersey because you can't guarantee the name on the back is going to be there for long.
Well, if you watched the College World Series yesterday, you were there for quite a long time. I'll tell you that, Mia O'Brien, because this game went to
out. It's the meme of the Simpsons. Stop. They're dead already.
Florida baseball made some history yesterday. The Gators scored the most runs in a men's College World Series game and came up one short of the record for largest margin of victory in a 24-4 rout of LSU that forced a deciding Game 3. Was it smart to go get that decisive win, or would it have been better to maybe ease off the gas a little bit here, Mia? Save some of your resources for the final game of the series. What say you?
Well, you can't predict baseball, John. And by far and large, the Gators did protect their resources. They only had 3 pitchers go in this game. So their arms are healthy, and that's what's gotten them to this point. I think they hadn't scored more than 6-7 runs this entire College World Series. So this was an anomaly. And I think it was a byproduct of LSU from the moment that the score got to 8-3. They basically said, all right, we're going to throw our young cats out there. We're throwing the towel in. We're not winning this one. We're playing for Monday. And Florida just took advantage of young pitching that was unproven and probably rattled by the fact that they came in with that score and that task at hand.
I still was surprised that LSU used 6 pitchers in this game, quite frankly, even if they were younger guys. In a situational, decisive winner-take-all game, you never know how you're going to have to orchestrate those puzzle pieces together and where you need to get a single out by a player, and maybe there's a good matchup. I was really surprised in a blowout like this, in a game that was pretty much decisively over by the 6th inning, that they went and used this many pitchers in this game. And you know, I mean, LSU, man, I mean, the dramatic stakes in which they even got to the College World Series speak for themselves, but I honestly don't believe this was the smartest management in this game. I think that utilizing 6 pitchers in a blowout like this instead of just having someone throw, I don't like that strategy at all.
Would you rather a position player throw?
No, I wouldn't have, because then this game would have never ended.
They have enough pitchers. It's college. You have enough guys on the roster that you can find somebody.
You don't have to be pulling a guy every 2/3 of an inning, every inning. You don't have to be doing that, especially in a game like this. Get a little bit of legs underneath you. Use 4 pitchers instead of 6. I know that sounds like it's semantics, but it's not. You know, as for Florida, there historically tends to be such thing as sometimes exhausting your offensive output.
But how do you stop it? Like, if you're hot and you're hitting, like you have to play the whole game, John.
Do a little half swing, take some pitches. Yeah, no. You
on their side, there's really nothing you can do. You just have to play the ball that's thrown at you.
Well, no, absolutely, but also I think that, I mean, I'm looking at this right now in the box score. Langford got 5 at-bats for Florida before he was pulled.
Oh, okay.
Their first baseman got 6 at-bats before he was pulled. Your designated hitter got 5 at-bats before he was pulled. You're up substantially already. Get some of the bench guys in. I understand offense's fluidity, but I'm not a big fan of seeing guys get 6 at-bats before they leave the game in something like this, when you clearly have an opportunity to maximize your output tomorrow. Rest them. Adding an extra at-bat to their repertoire is not going to do anything. Especially, you never know. You always risk injury too, right? Someone gets hit, and now they're gone for your championship game. But it was bizarre to see. And, well, I mean, what's your general impression of the College World Series? This College World Series has actually been doing fairly well in the ratings. And these are 2 household games.
one of my biggest regrets, second Iowa reference of the show, one of my biggest regrets from when I lived in the Midwest, I never got out to a College World Series. Omaha does such a tremendous job. I think the College World Series defines it every year, but it definitively says that the SEC and the ACC, that is where college baseball reigns. With all due respect to the state of California and the state of Texas, which as is Texas will be joining, and Texas A&M is already in the SEC. I think that it's a fascinating case study because you do have, your Oral Robertses of the world, the TCUs that find their way in. But when push comes to shove, who do we see at the end of the day? And I think it's telling that, and I did this earlier today, scrolling the Florida baseball roster, it is, John, at 82% Floridian-born players.
Mm-hmm.
And it speaks to where the best high school baseball is being played, the best, little league baseball is being played. And obviously it's by virtue of the weather, largely, because those guys can play year-round, and they can train year-round. And that's what we see. But it's super cool to see them all descend upon Omaha, and the Jello shot challenge and the pageantry and everything else. It's a cool venue. And I think, what's cool about LSU is they care about baseball. I mean, they paid their head coach a lot of money, and they fill that stadium every home game. And so it's not a surprise to me that the entire state of Louisiana packed up and left and went to Nebraska for the week. Plus, also because it was 100 degrees here in Jacksonville today. So I'm sure it was a similar weather out there in the bayou.
Yeah, the bayou, it's not all that helpful. Unfortunately, this time of the year, you're going to get locked up in the swampiness. So why not head out, get some corn, see how things are going out in the Midwest. And it is a great environment. And I'm glad that it's drawing well for TV because college baseball is great. And a lot of these guys end up translating very successfully to the majors when they play at the high level in these great schools like Florida, like LSU. So I am certainly all in on that. My baseball brain is all about it. My baseball brain's been getting quite the exercise this past week. Yeah. It's been pretty fantastic seeing the newest trend. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it here?
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me about it because
I can.
Oh, I can tell you about it. Let me tell you about it.
I gotcha.
Here we go. So the Immaculate Grid. It's a blank grid, category specific boxes. It's like a Punnett square, folks. Mm-hmm. You have to correctly guess all 9 to prove your baseball knowledge. I had never done this until John told me about it 40 minutes ago.
Yes.
Which I will reveal my score from today here in a second. Okay. But John, will sports fans truly go to any length to demonstrate how niche they are?
Of course we will. This has been, I was so surprised that you hadn't seen this until I brought it to your attention because this has been,
I've been trying to stay off the internet on weekends.
It's been all over my timeline the past week. And I love it because it's true. Baseball fans and sports fans in general, there's so machismo, whether they're a man or a woman or anything in between, that they must prove to you that their niche knowledge of the sport that they love is better than yours. And we will go to extreme lengths to do that, Mia O'Brien, myself included. If you've been following the Alba brand the past few years, you know the hashtag Alba Overtime Challenge, which, of course, was done as a way to prove how niche that you could possibly be. Please name the most random player from your sports fandom. That's all you have to do. So, yes, an opportunity like this, the Immaculate Grid. It's been fantastic for me. I've been very, very excited to
How did you do on today's?
So this was today. So let me lay it out for those of you who are watching, okay? So that first box means you have to name a player that played for both the White Sox and the Dodgers. This is the box next to that, a player that played for the White Sox and the Yankees. And then the box to the third, Hall of Fame and the White Sox. But you cannot have any repeats, and you've only got one guess at all of them. So how did I do today, Mia? You'd like to know?
Yep.
Here's how we did today.
Oh, my God.
So now, for those of you who follow along and know the bit, absurd 90s and 2000s niche baseball knowledge, that's my jam. Okay, so, it's easy to get like a White Sox Hall of Famer, right? Frank Thomas. Probably easy to get a Brewers Hall of Famer and a 3,000 strikeout career Hall of Famer. Those weren't too hard for me. Surely you all remember the time that the White Sox traded 2003 All-Star Esteban Loaiza to the New York Yankees, who I'm pretty sure, by the way, is in prison, or at least was in prison for cocaine trafficking. For me, it wasn't that hard to see CC Sabathia and the Yankees, but you may have accidentally used 3,000 strikeouts for CC Sabathia and the Yankees. So you could have potentially handicapped yourself in that, Mia?
I just sent you mine. I got
I'm
6
gonna
out
pull
of
it up.
9.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
pull
got
it up.
6 out of 9. Pull it on up. We both had CC. We both had the Big Hurt. We both had Randy Johnson, but in separate places. I put him as the Yankees 3,000 strikeout pitcher. So pull it on up.
The Yankees 3,000 strikeout pitcher. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to reformat.
And we also
here.
both had Greg Maddux, and I should have put him for the Dodgers. I was shocked, John.
Well,
how many great Dodgers pitchers have not notched 3,000 career strikeouts?
I don't think you're that crazy not to have put Greg Maddux there, because most people don't think of Greg Maddux as a Los Angeles Dodger. Again, we're talking niche baseball brain here. That's just how it goes. And we love talking about nostalgia. We love talking about these sorts of things that remind us of a great time. Here's yours. I'm pulling it up right now. So Mia, you went over in the which one did you get wrong?
The LA Dodgers.
So it was Dodgers. Who did you
I put Hershiser, I put Koufax, I put Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, no, those aren't big strikeout guys, which is crazy. No. If Koufax didn't play long enough, that was his problem. But yeah, you could have put Yasmani Grandal for the White Sox and Dodgers. The one for me that was tough was Jeremy Burnitz.
That's
Brewers
tough.
And Dodgers. I remembered Burnitz playing for the Brewers. I took a guess, admittedly, that he played for the Dodgers. I lucked out on that one. But I love stuff like this, Mia. Like, were you all about the Wordle trend when it dropped?
Oh, all about it. That's why as soon as you sent me this, I was like, ooh, I could play this. Yes. I'll be playing this every day now while I'm on vacation. This will be the one time I'm on my phone.
I love games like this. Go check it out. ImmaculateGrid.com if you haven't done so yet. It is a lot of fun. It's a good time waster, and it's always good to exercise your brain just a little bit too. Yeah. All right, Mia, you went to a UFC show for the first time ever this week, and I would love to know your experience there. That is, Mia goes to a UFC show and is exposed to the world of combat sports. Please tell us what your experience was like.
A lot of blood. That was fun. The prelims, watch my terminology here. I've been trained. The prelims were a little lackluster, John, outside of Trevor Peek, the freak who, he's just a backyard brawler. He lost to a first timer making his debut in Mariscal. But outside of him, there were a couple good fights in the prelims, but nothing too crazy. And then we get to the main card. And at this point, we're building towards, which was the most newsworthy piece of this and why I was there. Austin Lane, former Jaguar, media personality now here in Jacksonville, was making his UFC debut. He was the third of the 5 fights on the main card. So we're building to that. So the prelims are cool. They're whatever. And then we get Brendan Allen out of the gate, just by submission. It puts on the crazy Alabama, Louisiana headdress that's an animal, running around the crowd. It was electric. I was very the cardio that these guys and gals have is off the chain. The fact that it truly is, and of course you know this from my tenure in the Midwest, I have such respect for wrestlers just because it truly is the one sport where certainly golf and tennis are individual sports as well, but it is truly you, your body, everything you have against someone else's will. And it's incredible. So that was great. Onama was electric. With the win by KO in the second fight. And we're building. The energy in the arena is fantastic. We get to Austin. Pokes the guy in the eye 29 seconds in.
That's the beauty. It's beauty.
And they called it no contest.
Well, it's that's the beauty, and that's the pitfall of any MMA show you go to, because you will go and you will sit through 12 fights ready for the one that you came to see, and it could end in less than 30 seconds. That is the unpredictable nature of any combat sport. I remember the first combat sports show that I covered. It was like a 17, 18 fight card. I'm like, this is going to be a 5-hour show. We were in and out of there in under 2.5 hours. It was great because everything is just we
did have a lot of fights in the prelims go to the cards, by the way. A lot, almost all but 2 of them.
Some do go the distance. That does happen. But it's amazing because you'll get a fight that gets stopped in the first round 45 seconds into it. that is the unpredictable nature of any combat sports, especially MMA in particular, where you have so many different ways that a bout can end. And it can be a bit of a letdown sometimes. It can be like in that instance, you had all the air in you, and then it was just
it was so anticlimactic. And you could tell for Austin, because here's the thing is, so
they trained for
Tafa,
months for that.
they
for
trained
that
for
moment,
months.
for that moment.
Right. And so better yet, I'll give you the backstory. So Tafa, who he was fighting, flew all the way here from New Zealand. So like, hello. And then Austin, this fight was actually supposed to happen in January, but he tore his bicep in training 2 weeks earlier. And so they had to postpone it. And then after they postpone it, as luck would have it, they end up announcing UFC Fight Night in Jacksonville, and he's on the card. And so he knew that as much as his training will serve him, and I know he'll do well in his actual debut, he knows it's not going to be in Jacksonville. He's not going to have that home court advantage, like truly. And that's a bummer. Not that you want to win just because the crowd's into it, but you do want to have that crowd support. And he will have that, I'm sure, wherever he fights next. But dang, it just took the moment away.
That is literally every single combat sports show I've ever been to. It's just you go and you have huge expectations for something to deliver, and then it's just I mean, that very seldom does the entire card live up to the hype, let alone the one match that you came to see in the first place. All right, Mia, we got one more topic before our Beast of the Week.
Yep. This one makes you feel like bleh.
This is one of the weirdest things that I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah. So, an assistant women's bowling coach, yes, I said bowling, folks, that's Stephen F. Austin, is out after the university discovered he had a relationship with a student athlete. SFA assistant Steve Lemke opted to resign rather than be fired after the school learned of the relationship, which also has led to a split from his wife, Amber, who is the team's head coach.
Oh, wait, so you're about to read this quote. This is a crappy story as is, right? But what makes it fit our show is the statements from this coach. Go ahead, Mia.
I knew it was kind of a no-no, but there's not a rule saying it can't happen. There's not a law saying I'm going to go to jail for doing something like this. There's nothing in stone. I guess it's just an ethics code. Like, we frown upon it, but there's no rules. There's no law broken.
Can you believe this man said this? He said this on the record.
Well, she's not 17. She's not underage.
She was legal. It was fine. It was like very clear he was trying to like make sure that he could get a job down the line somewhere else. Like I didn't do anything like illegal.
Yeah, you're gonna get a job on a reality show, buddy. That's what you're gonna get.
The best part is that's not even the worst part of the quote. He goes, quote, I was the stay-at-home dad for 5 years with the kids while Amber, his wife, got to go off and coach the team. And when she'd get back, I'd run practices on top of taking care of the kids while she was back, he said. When they travel again, I would sit back and take care of the kids. Then when I got hired on, she almost forced me to run practices. I was a volunteer the entire time before that, trying to help out Amber. Once I got hired on, one thing stemmed from another. I felt like I was doing too much for what I was being valued at. This guy is insane.
You think they signed a prenup before they got married?
I sure as hell hope so. I mean, look, it's sketchy.
I didn't think that being the bowling coach, Stephen F. Austin, paid that well. Also, I didn't think practices were that intense.
But like the way in which he's rationalizing this, he's like, well, of course I would have an affair with the player because, hello, I had to sit at home and watch our kids. And then when I had the opportunity to come in, she got all the good graces and got to control things how she wanted. So why didn't I get to have any fun? This is one of the craziest stories I think I've ever heard out of this.
The headlines were also fantastic, by the way. If you search Stephen, first of all, I feel so bad for Stephen F. Austin because now if you search Stephen F. Austin bowling, it's of course the first thing that pops up, or Stephen F. Austin in general. Here it is. The quotes are hilarious, are worse. Where it was, there was like the first one that came out. It was something about a strike. Or they had there were a couple really great headlines. Here we go. Bowling scandal strikes Stephen F. Austin.
Right.
These are just so great.
Again, I'm not making light of him doing something, creepy. I mean, it wasn't illegal. It just was ethically wrong. It's also
it's not ethical. You cheated on your wife.
Right. It's ethically wrong. But I have to make light of what a freaking idiot this guy is. Like, for him to be like, just so you know, guys know, like, I didn't do anything illegal. It was fine. Like, it was totally fine. And the only reason I did it was because, like, she would be on the road coaching and I'd have to watch our kids. So like,
what else was I going to do but creep on her
so
players that were on the trip?
That'll show her. I'll get back at her for that one. This was bizarre as hell. And it would win our Beast of the Week, but it is a shortcoming for me in Beast of the Week. What is your Beast of the Week, Mia O'Brien?
Oh, you're going to let me go first?
Of course.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
You're not stealing my thunder. You're not taking my Beast of the Week.
My Beast of the Week is Ian Eagle. Finally awarded what he long deserved. National Sportscaster of the Year, our mentor, our good friend. We broke the news on this show a few months ago when he was named the next voice of the NCAA tournament. The legend. He will be honored tonight. I believe it's in North Carolina. I forget where it is. But he has been the New York Sportscaster of the Year 6 times, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times previously, but never national. He is, I wouldn't even say he's a star on the rise because he's been a star and he still doesn't get the credit he deserves. But hopefully now that he will be the voice of the Final Four, at least he'll start getting his flowers. He doesn't care though. He just enjoys it and has fun. And that's part of why he's been such a great mentor and friend to us both.
You know, I'm always about the birds. So kudos to you, Ian Eagle. You've done all right, kid. You've been all right. My Beast of the Week has got to be. Hold on here. I got a gnat on me. Ready? I'm going to get
this. That's fun. I just took care of some ants that were in this office, my home office. So the bugs they're attacking.
My Beast of the Week has got to be the Cincinnati Reds. Are we?
Illy de la Cruz.
De la Cruz. Joey Votto has.
He's alive.
He's
alive and well.
He has risen a la Miranda Tate from the Lazarus Pit. And he has come to be Gotham's reckoning in Cincinnati. 12 in a row, the Reds won. They are in first place in the NL Central, a team that was not supposed to compete at all. Packing the Great American Ballpark here when the boys of summer are the big-time headline. This is an amazing story. And they have an issue with that team that most teams would love to have. They have too many good young players. Where are these guys going to fit? They might even find themselves being buyers for a superstar at the deadline because they've got young players they could package off, which is not something that I think a lot of people saw coming.
And then they wouldn't have to worry about them playing the same positions and who's going to play.
Elly De La Cruz is
awesome.
I mean, awesome doesn't even do it justice. This guy has an opportunity to stand out as an immediate Rookie of the Year winner, let alone contender, and someone who has made more of an impact in a single season as a rookie than just about anybody if this team makes the playoffs. This is an amazing story. The Cincinnati Reds are my Beast of the Week.
And what's funny is he wasn't even on the opening day roster either.
No, I'm saying he got called up like 3 weeks ago. His first game hits a home run. This guy's amazing. He can hit, he can run. The Votto resurgence, it's amazing. This is a fantastic story. It's great for baseball. I hope they lean into it. And
I love to see the small market, medium market teams make a statement. The Reds haven't been good in
a while,
most of our lifetime. So very good to see. I also am surprised you did not pick the Titan as your Beast of the Week, but that's a story for another time.
I mean, come on. We're talking people dying there, man. I'm not going to do that. Come on. That's morbid here. That's morbid. We're not going into that territory on Out of Bounds. That would, in fact, be out of bounds. For Out of Bounds. But I encourage you all to make sure you tune in to Out of Bounds every single week here on the Know Your News Network. She's Mia O'Brien. I'm John Alba. We will see you next time.